Anytime that we honor people in the community, it makes the meetings a little more special. You know, we honor a state champion. We had the Islander wrestlers last week. But we're talking like heroic measures. This kind of stuff doesn't happen all the time. And to honor 5 people in one meeting in the last few weeks, and 2 of them being a second grader and a fourth grader, that's amazing. That to me, I'm so glad we were able to do it, and I'm so glad so many people were here for that part of the meeting. I want to give each of them a standing ovation, right? Like to have a second and fourth grader make the decision to call 911 that obviously not just stopped a fire, but saved pets' lives, saved human lives, saved destruction of property beyond what, it's just incredible to have, a citizen that has skills jump in and help a arrest in progress and do it properly. Do it by asking, hey, officer, do you need some help? Instead of just jumping in, which could have been chaotic. That is an amazing thing. And then to have 2 folks at the airport, one of them being Doug Brown from this council, save a life, literally save a life with CPR in a situation. I was awestruck by all 5 of these folks and their efforts. It's a proud day for Grand Island. My biggest takeaway from tonight's finance presentation, honestly, it's the conservative approach the city has taken over the years. I sometimes laugh. I don't know that I've ever said, let's be conservative very loudly outside of financial. And this is why, right? When you get into a situation where you can have chaos in Washington that we have right now, where we don't know what kind of impact it's going to be day to day on a city like Grand Island. And we know it can be huge. Things that happen there can be huge. Things that happen in Lincoln can really impact Grand Island. We don't know what's necessarily going to end up happening there. So to be in a situation where we can weather storms of chaos out of our control, doing what we do and doing it right, I would love to take a bunch of credit for that, for being on a council that has been so wise. But it predates me. It predates a lot of us on council. There's been times where it was lean, and they learned from that. And to be able to learn from those council members and understand what they've seen to prevent us from having to see that again, my aha is just a gratitude for the conservative approach. To not get overexcited when you see buckets of money, but to think, how are we going to handle this in 4 years, in 6 years? Councils down the road, how are they going to be able to handle this if we don't leave them with options? So that's a gratitude I have for the folks that came before me. The transparency portal, I look at it every time he brings it up, and I'm like, I'm so glad we have that. And I also have Pat at my fingertips, so if I have a question, I can call Pat. But for a community member to be able to look at that and have really some simplified looks at a complicated topic like a budget, to break it down, to drill into it and say, hey, I can see exactly how much we're making off of the Good Life tax so far, or for the casino tax, which are questions I get all the time, and I don't readily know off the top of my head how much those numbers are, but we can find it pretty easy on the website. So I'm thankful for an easy tool to use, even if I don't use it enough. The hotel tax has been around long enough to help us keep the event center going, and I expect to use it for something related to the event center. A lot of these special taxes, occupation taxes, whether it's food and beverage or a half-cent sales tax, it's typically earmarked for something we know about. And those things have cost, and they've served us well. We obviously have to analyze each one of them. With the hotel tax, specifically saying, okay, we need the event center to be funded for the different things that that fund goes towards, but it's probably going to go higher than that when we have more hotel rooms getting used more often. And these things should build upon themselves as we promote Grand Island stronger and stronger. So I think there's going to be some things we can open doors with to say, in addition to, here's some things we'd like to spend that money on. And I think it should all be part of a strategic plan that we have for all of our funding in the city. I often tell people leadership is not hard versus easy. It's not good versus bad. Leadership, no matter what it is, usually boils down to good versus good or bad versus bad, hard versus hard. It's rarely easy versus hard, right? So that's what we have to look at. And again, I will say a strategic plan to tell us where we want to go, where we want to be down the road, not flying by the seat of our pants, not shooting from the hip every decision, but knowing what does that roadmap look like. We're going to rely on city staff and leaders. We're going to rely on community members to help with that. But each year we're faced with some of those problems, solutions, issues. Who are we going to reward and who aren't we? I'm really excited that the council is going to be brought in on an earlier basis this year to look at it before a lot of the decisions are made and then brought to us as recommendations. We can give our input before the different departments say, okay, if that's the kind of roadmap we have from council, how are we going to go forward? And then the recommendations, we understand them where they're coming from a little bit better, but they also understand what we're thinking before they bring us things. I know last year it was hard to say no to certain things that maybe if we would have been on the front end of, might have gone a little differently. So that's a long way of saying it's a tough job, but the community expects that of us. If it was up to me, yes, we would say yes to everything, but then future councils wouldn't be in the luxury position we are of not being broke. So we will have to make those hard decisions. Tonight we not only honored those heroes. I get excited when I see our city staff that are a part of this budget in action. And I don't want to say heroic, they're doing their job, but to have presentations and to have questions answered from the community representatives, which is what the council are, with city staff to say, what are we spending money on? And them being able to have the answers, whether it's the website tool that we mentioned, or it's just their knowledge. We're fortunate in the city to have people that know just a lot of information about how we're spending our money to where we can make wise decisions. That we are in a luxurious position to have options, and we can weather chaos. But a lot of that comes not just to council, but to good leadership and good folks in these positions in the city. So, those investments that we're spending these tax dollars on, they're paying off.